everyone. Welcome and good evening. My name is Nell Pepper, and on behalf of Harvard Bookstore, I am so pleased to introduce this virtual event with Brandon P. Fleming presenting his new memoir, Miseducated, in conversation with Nick Stone. Thank you so much for joining us virtually tonight. Through virtual events like tonight's, Harvard Bookstore continues to bring authors and their work to our community. Every week, we host events here on our Zoom account, and upcoming virtual events include talks with Stacey Abrams, Michael Pollan, and a conversation with Cecily Strong and Chanel Miller. Please check out the event schedule on our website at harvard.com/events. And while you're there, you can sign up for our email newsletter for more updates. This evening's discussion will conclude with some time for your questions. If you have a question for our speakers at any time during the talk tonight, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will get through as many as time allows. And I'd also like to let you know that this event will have closed captioning available. Depending on the version of Zoom that you are using, you may need to enable captions yourself by clicking on the closed caption button on your screen. In the chat, I will be posting a link to purchase copies of Miseducated on harvard.com, as well as a link to donate in support of this series and of our store. Your purchases and financial contributions make events like tonight's possible and help ensure the future of a landmark independent bookstore in Cambridge. We all thank you so much for continuing to show up and tune in, both in support of our authors and of the truly fantastic staff of booksellers at Harvard Bookstore. We sincerely appreciate your support now and always. And lastly, as you may have experienced in virtual gatherings, technical issues, of course, may arise. We hope they don't, but if they do, we will do our best to resolve them quickly. And we thank you so much for your patience and understanding. And now I am delighted to introduce our speakers. Brandon P. Fleming is the assistant coach of debate at Harvard University and founder of the nationally acclaimed Harvard Debate Council Diversity Project. In 2020, Fleming was recognized by Forbes on their 30 under 30 list and by The Root as one of the Root 100 most influential African Americans in 2020. Nick Stone was born and raised in a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia, and the only thing she loves more than an adventure is a good story about one. After graduating from Spelman College, she worked extensively in teen mentoring and lived in Israel for a few years before returning to the US to write full-time. Her acclaimed novels for young people include her debut bestseller, Dear Martin, Clean Getaway, Odd One Out, Dear Justice, and Shuri, a Black Panther novel. They will be discussing Brandon Fleming's memoir, Miseducated, which recounts his extraordinary journey from a tumultuous, abusive upbringing and a nearly lethal battle with depression as an 18-year-old college dropout to his current role as assistant coach of debate at Harvard University and founder of the Harvard Diversity Project, a pipeline program of the Harvard Debate Council. For 3 consecutive years since the program's inception in 2017, every cohort trained by Fleming has won Harvard's International Summer Debate Competition. I'm very pleased to turn things over to our speakers. The digital podium is yours, Brandon and Nick.
That might have been a mistake, Nell, but it's okay.
Oh.
Nick Stone.
Oh my God. So first of all, Bray, your chops like took me out. So, and it's funny because I'm just gonna put it out there. We got to kick it on Tuesday because you had a kind of a release party for the book. Book came out on Tuesday. Congratulations, by the way. It is a huge deal to have like this beautiful look. It smacks somebody over the head with it. It's a hardcover. Like you done done the thing. You were talking about how you wouldn't do it again. And I disagree with that. And I will continue to disagree with that because you really do. You have such a way with words. The first question I have for you, Miseducated is a book, it's a memoir, but it's a book that I've never really seen anything like it with regard to the way you express yourself, with regard to the things that you are willing to just kind of put out there. As I was reading it, in addition to like sobbing at times and wanting to fight at other times, I was astounded by, like I said, the things that you were willing to talk about in this book. There's just such a lack of the kind of shame we're told we're supposed to feel over some of the stuff that you went through. So I guess my first question to you is like, I won't say where did the inspiration come from, like what inspired you to write the book, but like what gave you the courage to put all of this out there?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna answer your question, but first I'm gonna give you these flowers because I need you to know how much I appreciate you, how much you mean to me. I am just honored and privileged to be able to have this conversation, this first virtual conversation with you. I mean, just you inspire me. I'm just so impressed by you, and I'm so just blown away by your work, and not just as a Black woman, because I kind of hate when people say that. It's because it's like, do you not expect that? You know, because, oh, this is great, you know, and I'm proud of you as a Black, and like, nah,
You cute for a
as
Black girl. Yes, I
contribution,
understand.
your contribution to the literary world. You know, you talking about you want to see more books out of me. That's coming from somebody who got like 20 books of their own. Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. But I'm so privileged and so honored to be able to share this moment with you. And thank you for being there the other day as well to celebrate the moment with me on that book release. I enjoyed even more than the release itself, the time we spent in the parking lot just talking for hours.
Being old.
So yeah, we gonna being old, we're gonna keep that same energy going, man. It don't even matter who's here right now, because honestly, like, you know, we would do this on FaceTime, in person, whatever. So we just gonna let people eavesdrop on what we talking about. But to answer your question, what gave me the courage to do this and to be so raw with what I share with the world. Honestly, it didn't start out as being for the world. What really gave me the courage to do it is that this book started out just for my students. You know, I find myself in class, you know, all the time sharing with my kids about my own journey and what teachers once taught me, and that process that's in that book, you know, where I go through this transformation and this reinvention. I've now turned that process into curricula, you know, and I use it as a tool to help build scholars, you know. And so I want my students to learn from my mistakes. And so at first, you know, it's very uncomfortable just kind of airing your foibles to the world, but it's the price that I'm willing to pay if they're able to use my mistakes as a compass for the places where they don't have to go,
Mhm.
you know. And it's like, I've been there, I've learned that lesson. And so, you know, we are in a position where we can offer them a cheat sheet, you know, where we can say, look, this is the result of doing this. Let me tell you how to get there quicker, you know, because ultimately we don't want them to be where we are, we want them to go further. And so honestly, that's what gave me the courage to do it, is that it started out being for them first.
I will tell you, I think the thing that I appreciated most is that you do present these things without shame. Because I will say that as a person who writes books aimed at teenagers that get banned all the time, because, you know, there's this idea that the stuff that
Yeah.
I talk about in my books isn't appropriate for young people. But what I discovered reading Miseducated is that you really were willing to be like, yo, no, this is what I was doing when I was the age of these people you say are too young to read what I'm talking about, right? How did you get to a point where you were able to shake off the shame that would typically keep people silent about this stuff?
You know, I don't know that I had to shake it off, because I don't know that it was ever there. You know, I mean, I was never really ashamed about what I did, because this is a story about victory. You know, this is a story that picks you up in a very low place, but where it drops you off in a place of inspiration. You know, and so for that reason, I'm willing to delve deep into those dark places, because I know that I came out. You know, and I needed to show other people that you can come out too. It doesn't matter how low, doesn't matter how downtrodden you might be. You know, nobody is beyond the reach of redemption. And I truly believe that if I was able to make it out, that's what I want to show the world. If I was able to make it out, if I was able to take my broken and shattered pieces and turn it into a mosaic, then everyone else has the power to do the same.
Bars. See, this is what I'm talking about. You need to keep writing. That was just beautiful and poetic, like mosaic. We all out here talking
Nah,
about mosaics now.
it's real,
Look.
yo. It's real.
So I have a favorite quote from the book. I only knew that I was born into circumstances I did not choose. I
Yeah.
conformed to the identities and lifestyles of the people who were accessible to me. The reason that this quote, number one, stood out is because the truth of it is something that I think a lot of people overlook, right?
Mm.
Like, as the mother of Black boys, I have 2 sons, and my sons are growing up very differently than the way that I did, largely because I've worked my ass off. I think like if you decide to have children, they're going to grow up differently than you did because you've been working your ass off. But there is something to be said about being a product of your environment. And I think that this is something that people overlook when it comes to Black boys specifically. I want you to say a little bit more about conforming to these identities and these lifestyles that you saw around you, and why you felt like you had to do that. Because if you read the book, it's very clearly you felt like that was an imperative.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I say all the time is that what we have to understand about access and representation is that representation is the lens through which we dream. It's the lens through which we aspire. I aspired to become that which I had access to. I didn't know Black people could be scholars. I mean, and I know that sounds crazy. And people might say, well, there's Black scholars all over the world. Yeah, but there weren't Black scholars in my world. And the microcosm in which I existed, where I only saw Black drug dealers and Black gangsters and Black athletes, that's what I had access to. I didn't see Black scholars in my community. I didn't see Black scholars on my television. I didn't see Black scholars in my textbooks. That's a whole nother. We could spend the whole time talking about that. And so what does that say about me? And that's why we're talking about decolonizing curriculum right now, because we got to ask the world, when a young Black kid is reading the textbooks at school, what does it tell them about themselves? That my history is rich and full of legacy, and it's not relegated to a 400-year freedom struggle. It's not relegated to poverty in Africa. And at the same time, look, we wasn't all kings and queens neither. You know what I'm saying? But we have to show Black and brown people, that it's possible for them, and we have to give them access to examples and models that will make them aspire to be something great. And that's something that I did not have, quite honestly. Young people can't be what they can't see. And so for me, I saw Allen Iverson and his cornrows, what I'm saying? And I thought I could be that, so I wanted the cornrows too, so I got the Iverson braids. The thing is, I ain't have no hang time though, so I got made. Yo, you remember when cats used to come to school, and they had braids, but they ain't had no hang time? That was me. I used to get clowns like I had no hang time.
I was the braider. I totally remember. I was the girl everybody came to get hair braided.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister used to braid my hair. So yeah, man. I saw Allen Iverson. I saw him. Latrell Sprewell and Stephon Marbury with all the tattoos and baggy jeans, and I thought I could be that, because they look like me, but how different would it have been if someone would have at an early age introduced me to Black scholars, and if somebody would have put a book in my hand instead of a basketball, I think my life could have turned out differently as a child.
So I want to dig into this a little bit though, because I completely agree with you. But the thing about you as a Black scholar that makes you different from a lot of the Black scholars, honestly, the thing about both of us as Black scholars that I feel is a little bit different from some of the Black scholars that I did encounter when I was growing up is authenticity, right?
Yeah,
like, man. We were talking on Tuesday about being ratchet and educated. Like you can be really well educated and still do things that society says you're not supposed to do, like the things that are quote unquote fulfill the stereotypes. But how you clearly successfully are able to push back against the idea that to be you have to kind of eschew and not do anything or be involved with what's over here. And that's just not true, right? How do you manage to do the things that you do, build the things that you build, and still just be who you are?
And can I say, that's one of the things I love about you, because I told Kelly that the other day. After that event, I was like, yo, I fucking love Nick Stone, yo, because she's so fucking brilliant and she's so fucking ratchet, yo. And this is like the perfect, you know, convergence of sophistication and ratchetness, and it's beautiful, you know. And nobody should be one dimensional. I think we have an advantage for that. You know why? Because reaching people is all about being multilingual. It's about being able to speak other people's languages in order to connect with other people, you know. And there's a lot of people who really struggle with that ability to connect. And so I'm grateful for my journey, you know. And it's the same way, you know, look, my kids gonna grow up privileged as fuck, you know, because they're not gonna have the same struggles that I had. However, I want them to understand how to connect with people. You know, I need them to be to be able to have a variety of different cultural experiences, and to be able to speak other people's languages, to be able to connect with them in different places, because that's what it's all about, you know. And so yeah, I'm able to do that, you know, because, you know, we are, our motto at the Harvard Diversity Project is we're the place where scholarship meets culture, you know. And it's a movement that goes against the grain and shows young Black people that you don't have to sacrifice defining elements of your culture in order to conform and assimilate to what society says a scholar should look like. You can be a scholar and have tattoos. You can be, look, I got tattoos. Look, you know, we lit. You know what I'm saying? You could be a scholar and use your urban slang, your ebonics. You know what I'm saying? Like, people hear people use slang and ebonics and think that it's not sophisticated. That shit's creative. You know what I'm saying? That what we do with words, you know what I'm saying? It's creative. It's poetics, you know? And so that's why, you know, because those people who think that Blackness or characteristics of Blackness are unintelligent, that's really just a sign of their lack of intelligence, because we're a beautiful and a brilliant people, and we should show it.
This,
We
why
gotta
we
flaunt
rock.
that shit.
This is why we
This
rock.
is
Like, we just, like,
yeah.
having somebody who sees the world through a similar lens, there's like nothing like it in the world.
Yeah.
I love the way in this book that even just through the telling of your story, you really highlight the power of economic inequality. And you manage to like show all of these factors into who you became. Some of them have to do with family. Some of them have to do with like economic situation. You know, your mom was gone a lot because she was gone for weeks at a time. You were dealing with somebody that I wanted to, reading this book, I was like, ooh, I hope I never see this dude in the street. Cause and I mean, and I understand that because I had a similar situation in my house. And so it's like getting to see how it's almost this kind of double-edged sword, right? Something that I feel like you really highlighted beautifully in this book is how there's this pressure on Black kids specifically to conform. Like, this is what you got to do in order to earn respect. But you do all those things and people still don't respect you. So then then you're going to go the other way, because at the end of the day, the message is you have to earn respect. Reputation is kind of everything in a lot of ways. How did you shift out of that space where it's like, okay, I'm doing everything right, but nobody is seeing this other stuff going on in the background that's trying to keep me down. So now, because nobody wants to see that, nobody's paying attention to that, I'm gonna shift and I'm gonna do something different just so I feel a little safer. But both ways, everybody wants to treat me like trash. How do you break out of both of those things and honestly kind of carve out a new space for yourself? Because I feel like that's what you did, not in the book, but in life.
Yeah, you know, it's about learning how to navigate spaces. You know, if we're being real, there are certain environments in which it's not an opportune time for us to show every aspect of ourselves. You know what it reminds me of, yo, and this is like, I'm gonna try not to go on too many tangents, because like we could just talk about so much. It reminds me of what someone asked me about code switching, where they were like, do you think Black people should code switch? You know, and some people disagree. You know, some people are like, nah, you know, Black people shouldn't code switch, you know, because we shouldn't have to conform, we shouldn't have to do this, and we shouldn't have to do that. And there's some truth to that. You know, there's some validity to that. But at the same time, again, it goes back to what I was saying about being able to speak multiple languages and not being one dimensional.
Mhm.
I think what I learned, throughout my journey, was how to not be one dimensional. But here's the thing: some people don't know how to explore dimensions of their selves without losing who they are at the core. That's what I never lost. So the thing is, look, I can go up to Harvard and I can talk that talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like we can, I can get in the boardrooms, and I can talk that talk. I can walk that walk. I can be all of that. But at the end of the day, I don't lose myself because I know who I am. And I'm able to show people who I am, and they're able to appreciate that as well. And then some of it, quite honestly, is about power.
Yeah.
Some of it is about power as well. You know what I'm saying? Because a person who has power, is a person who commands respect, and people are willing to make certain concessions, for people who they respect and perceive, in power.
Yeah, word. Yeah, look, again, this is sort of off topic, but not really. Like, I don't know that it's possible to not code switch. It's a natural thing, like depending
Yeah,
on
yeah.
where you're at, you talk based on where it's like, I personally think it's a skill, just putting that out there.
Right,
I want you
right.
to say a little bit about the compulsion to cause chaos, right? Because like something that I really dug about this book is that you really didn't hold back when you were talking about you had a desire really to kind of create chaos in some of the spaces you found yourself in. But I know that that comes from a very human place. Will you just talk about that a little bit? Like this drive
Yeah,
to fuck shit up,
you
honestly.
know, yeah, and that's a great way to put it, because I wanted to fuck shit up, and I wanted to fuck up everything that I could, everything that was around me,
Mhm.
and I became, a threat to everything and everybody who was around me. And I think we got to talk about the why. Here's the thing, yo. When we look at people, and like, even when I was in school, and as a kid, and I exhibited all of these, wayward and miscreant behaviors, and teachers had a reason to not want to deal with me. But here's that: everybody had a label for me.
Yep.
Everybody had a judgment for me, but nobody took the time to ask the right questions. No, no, nobody asked the why. And here's the thing: we see people out here every day fucking shit up. We see
Yep.
people killing people. We see, mass shooters. We see people raping people. We see people. But here's what we got to understand: is hurt people tend to hurt other people. And at the end of the day, we're going to continue that cycle until somebody takes the time to stop and say, you know what? What's happening to that person?
Yep.
Because what I want people to see in this book, in this story, is that victims can either become villains or they can become heroes. Victims will become villains if they don't find help, but victims can become heroes if they can simply find healing. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? And we got to understand that about people. And so I'm not turned off, when I see some of my students, exhibiting some of the behaviors that even I did,
Mhm.
when I was younger. I take the time, and I ask the right questions. I try to learn from their experiences, because at the end of the day, I think we're all looking for healing. I
Yeah.
think some of us are looking for healing in the wrong places. We're all looking for love. I think some of us are looking for love in the wrong places. When I got jumped into that gang, when I
Yep.
got introduced to drugs, I don't necessarily know that I wanted to do that. In fact, I wasn't even good at being a gangster at first. You know what I'm saying? Like, you remember that part of the book, when I was
The
introduced to,
parsley.
I saw, yeah, yo, I was wilding, you know what I'm
I
saying?
was
But I wanted,
dying when I was reading about the parsley. I
but
was
I
like, this
wanted to
man
be
really did
accepted.
with the
You know what
parsley
I'm
and
saying? Here
like
I am,
Bible
like,
paper.
yo, here I am. And I got that from a song, right? So it's like how impressionable we are. But I see everyone. I wanted to be down. I
Yeah.
wanted to be down because I didn't have a community. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a support system like that. And so what everyone was doing around me, I thought that I had to adapt to that in order to be loved.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of us tend to do.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, even the fact that the book really does give it gives a bit of insight into why young like Black boys go down the path that they go down, right? Like I think
Yeah.
about the book Native Son, Richard Wright's Native Son, and I read that book. I think I was probably 17 or 18, and the idea of Bigger Thomas basically feeling like, well, where the hell else was I going to end up based on the things going on around me? It's like, was it inevitable for him to wind up where he did? And you really do an excellent job of digging into that and showing all of these other factors, where these places where we're not given the benefit of the doubt, right? Like a kid goes and shoots up a high school, the immediate assumption is that he was mentally ill in some way. If he looked like us, obviously that's not the case. It doesn't go down the same way. And I'm thankful for your willingness to just like put it out there. Like
I
even
had
with
to.
regard to language, like it's awesome.
I had to, man, because this book is it's an emotional, intellectual, and psychological window into the experiences of people who are lost. We tend to judge those people, but when we talk about reaching people, you can't reach people that you don't understand.
Ooh,
And so that's what I want to achieve through this book is it, if we're talking about going out and rescuing the lost, we can't do that if we don't understand them first. You
right.
know, if we don't have empathy for them first, if we don't know how to serve, you can't, you know, my mentor, Dr. Cornell West, says you can't save people that you don't serve,
Mm,
and you can't lead people that you don't love. And so this is hard work right here, you know what I'm saying? And that's why so many teachers fall short, you know, because they don't know how to do that hard work. They
yeah,
might be intellects, they might be brilliant, they might be scholars, but they don't know how to serve people. They
right.
don't know how they don't know how to reach people, and so they miss them, and then so many people end up lost.
So I'm gonna ask you one more question before I open it up to Q&A, unless people don't ask any questions, and then I'll just continue to answer questions and we'll continue to bop. But I want you to say more about your journey up, because we've talked a lot about like being down and the things that were contributing to you hitting this low place. Like the book opens with a suicide attempt. And well, I guess I should say with the result of a suicide attempt. And like, first of all, shout out to you. I just don't know of a whole, like I have conversations with some of my Black friends every day about like, why are you not taking your psychiatric medication? Like you're coming to me and you're not doing well, but you don't want to take your meds, right? So like the fact that you're willing to even start the book with an expression of a mental health struggle, like shout out to you. I personally, as a person who has mental health issues, I cannot say how much I appreciate you. Like it's impossible for me to express how much I appreciate you, a straight Black, cute dude being like, yo, this is where I started. How did you get up?
I think for me, desperation has a tendency to pull us up sometimes.
Mhm.
You know, that desperation has I hit rock bottom, and I didn't hit rock bottom. I didn't just hit rock bottom, but I made my bed there. You
Mm.
know, and it was a space I lived in where I don't think I could have gotten any lower than that, than trying to take my own life. But can I tell you that time period gave me a sense of fearlessness, because there was a part of the book where I said I started doing stuff. You know, when I got to college, you know, doing when I gave that first speech, when I did the Harlem Renaissance Festival, when I started that program, I wasn't scared of failing.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I had been so low, failure couldn't do anything to me that it had not done already. I wasn't scared of that place. I'm like, I've been there. Oh yeah, I done came out of that place already. I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. I ain't scared of it. You know what I'm saying? Because if I ever fall there again, now I pulled myself back up. Now there's nothing that I can't do. You can't tell me one thing that I can't do, because I'm not scared. And even if I am scared, I'm gonna do it afraid. You know, and so growing up for me as an athlete too, I never realized. I think every student should participate in athletics. You know, it's so important because it instilled within me a sense of competition, not necessarily competition with everyone else, but competition with myself. It
Mhm.
taught me how to be my best self, and it taught me that sometimes your disadvantages are your greatest gifts.
Yeah.
You know, so for instance, for me, you know, I'm not very tall. You know what I'm saying? I'm only like 5'8", you know, but and I wanted to make it in basketball. And so in order to make it in basketball, you know, I had to compensate for my weaknesses, you know, and that's because my coach told me. He said, listen, we don't complain, son, we compensate. What are you going to do about your own disadvantages? What are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? I had coaches and teachers who looked me in my eyes and said they would not let me lament. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so from that moment, I realized that the ball was in my court. And so now, you know, when I struggled with the literacy, the ball was in my court. You know, when I struggled with raising money, the ball was in my court. With everything that I struggled with, the ball was in my court. It taught me that in every circumstance that I experience, there's never a point where I have absolutely no control, but I can always find a way to pull myself out and be my best self. And so that's how I was able to lift myself out of that.
Bro, you the realest, bro. Like, I like seriously adore you, and
You know,
like,
I love you.
we about to cut up. Is all I'm gonna say. They not ready. They not ready.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of questions in the Q&A. I really like this first one, actually. What was it like to sell this book to an overwhelmingly white publishing industry for agents and publishers who might see it as troubled Black boy gets a white education and heals? That's a fantastic question.
That is a really good question, and I don't know that I thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about white people when I wrote this book. I just,
That's
you know,
very good.
and like some people do, but I wasn't thinking about the book industry when I wrote this book. I
Mhm.
wasn't thinking about the publishing process when I wrote this book. I was thinking about emptying myself. That's all I was thinking about. I was thinking everything that was on the inside. I was thinking about my students. I from the entire time. That's what gave me the strength. If it was not for them, I would not have done this. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, the places. I don't think y'all understand, man. Like, especially in the beginning of that book, I had to revisit those places. My family and I never had conversations about any of that stuff. All that stuff happened when I was like 10, you know, from 5 years old to 10 years old. And we swept all that under the rug. Until this point, my family had never had one conversation about it, to the point where I had to call my sister and be like, Sierra, I know it's going to be tough, but I got to write this book, but I got to remember some of the things that happened. And as we're trying to recall to our memory, you know, our recollections of those events, she and I both sat there on the phone breaking down because
Yeah.
all that pain started to rush back, and I didn't know what to do with that. I'll be honest with you, and you're the first person I've told this, but I went through depression while writing that book.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I went. I was not ready to go there.
Yeah.
I dealt with some serious healing, and people always like, oh, well, was it a healing process? No,
No.
it was that book was not a healing process.
Yeah.
It wasn't. But you know what will bring a sense of healing? The moment I hear from somebody that book gave them a sense of healing.
Yep.
You know, and because that's what it's about. It's about taking our pain and turning it into something beautiful that we can offer the world to make somebody else's life better. That's what gives purpose to your pain.
Yeah.
And so all of that I went through will feel purposeful whenever it affects somebody else and allows them to push through their circumstances. So hope that answers the question. Just a straightforward answer. I wasn't thinking about
You
white
weren't
people.
thinking about white people at all. Look,
I wasn't.
I feel it. Like, I think sometimes in order to tell a story you want to tell, you kind of can't.
No, I mean, because some people do. You know, I want to show the white man that. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. Honestly,
Nah, we're
I wasn't.
they see enough. We're all right. Next question. How would you encourage people to embrace vulnerability, especially the people who love to put on a tough front?
Yeah, I think that's tough. You know why? Because you know all throughout the book I talk about real nigga shit. You
Yes, you
know, like
do.
that's the phrase.
I love it.
That was, you know what I'm saying? That's what I, you know, I was taught, and particularly that scene where I say I was in the school of hard knocks with my cousins, and I was taught what real niggas do.
Yep.
That real niggas fuck bitches, real niggas get money. You know, real niggas don't cry.
These are the things.
Real niggas, and to the point where, and this was so powerful, and I hope people get it, to the point where even as men, for instance, we're not taught to be excited when we see each other. You know, even if we are excited to see each other, we taught to keep a straight face and that. Yeah, what's good, bro? What's good? You straight? Yeah, I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not taught to be vulnerable with each other. In fact, you know, I was reading this article, you know, that described male relationships versus female relationships. It said, you know, female relationships tend to be face to face,
Yep.
whereas male relationships tend to be shoulder to shoulder,
Yep.
which means we do things together, but we don't connect intimately, you know, and so we live in this culture that is very hyper masculine to where we make it seem like it's not masculine to be emotional, and that's why so many men are fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I struggled so much, because I was taught that if you were vulnerable, you were a pussy.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so how do you overcome that? By changing your surroundings.
Yeah.
You know, changing the people who are feeding your mind. You know, that when I got out of that environment, that's when I was able to change. But the fact of the matter is, I was fortunate to get out of that. Some people are stuck in their conditions, you
Hmm.
know, and that's why it's our responsibility to liberate them.
Word, word. And I mean, I think something important for, I want everyone to take a second to just recognize the fact that, like, the tough guy act, you're dehumanizing yourself. Like the
Facts,
way
that's
that
it.
we cut off our own humanity by pretending that we don't
Yo,
have
that part.
feelings. Like, why
Like
would you
you're a
want to do
wholly, like you're a whole emotional being. You know, why would you suppress that? Why would you not nurture that part of who you are? You could never be whole that way.
Right. And this is literally what separates us from other members of the animal kingdom. It's like cognition and emotion. Like, we don't need to act like wolves. We
Yeah,
can be people.
yeah,
Ta-da.
yeah, man.
Yeah. So there's another question here. This is actually from one of my mentees and one of your kids, Elliot Udo.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, Elliot.
I love my Elliot.
I love
Uh,
her.
Miseducated is a deeply personal book that obviously caused you to dig into some dark places. How did you care for your emotional and mental well-being while reliving this trauma? Like you just said that it took you, you were depressed while you were writing it. How did you survive that?
It depends on how honest you want me to be. I mean, shit. Sometimes drinking. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Sometimes partying. You know, here's the thing. You know, we tend to judge addicts a lot when more many of us are addicts and we don't even know it.
Yep.
And the reason why is because I think most of us are out here trying to chase some sort of high.
Yep.
All of us are looking for highs. All of us are looking for something that will numb and quell the pain. And for me, I didn't know how to deal with that. You know, fortunately for me, I'll be honest with you, to just to answer the question directly, work is what's thankfully what the type of work that I do is so purpose driven that it gives me a sense of healing. If I didn't have that, I would not have a reason to live, and I certainly wouldn't be able to write that book. But as I went into those dark spaces, I was able to come out because I had somebody to come out for. I had somebody to live for. And there's so many people who don't feel like they have a reason to live. There's so many people that feel like they have no one to love, no one to love them. And as a result, they feel like they have no purpose, you
Yeah.
know. And so that's how I was able to make it through. I was able to make it through because of the people that I love.
Ugh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And that is another way of encouraging vulnerability. Like,
Yeah.
you have other people
Yeah.
that you live for, in a sense. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This is a really good one too. I live in a small community where there's been about 2 to 3 murders each month, mostly Black men. How do I keep from becoming numb to it all?
You know, that's tough. It's hard to say because I did become numb to that. You know, the violence, you know, that I saw constantly in my community. I think we have to be careful about not becoming numb to other people's pain,
Yeah.
and trying to numb our own pain. And I think empathy, you know, whether that's empathy for others, whether that's empathy for self and self care, and all of that is essential. But I think the way that we don't become numb to it is we put ourselves in a position where we're constantly fighting against it. You know, there are some people, and that's why I said there's a difference between, for instance, cultural awareness and cultural responsiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And cultural awareness is not enough, and the reason why is because you can be aware of something and choose to do nothing about it. You know, racism. Who doesn't know that racism exists? There's not one person in this world that does not know that racism exists. However, not everyone is willing to respond to racism. And so my answer to that would be always be in a position to respond. Always be in a position to fight against it. And when you do that, you won't become numb to it.
Bars. Now that you have students who have graduated from your program and most likely will read the book, how do you intend to approach conversation with them about the personal side of you that they did not know about while you were teaching?
I ain't got no answer for that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know. We figuring that out right now. I mean, because this is so new, it is very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Like Nick, when I tell you I did some shit, you know, and my kids have never seen me in that light. And so now I'm like, oh my God, like what are they gonna think about me?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I mean, the best thing, but it's I'm not the only one in this position. Like, you know, think about for parents, like you as a mother,
Yeah.
you know, how willing are you gonna be to tell your kids, yo, I fucked up? You know what I'm saying? And let me tell you how. And there's a difference between telling your kids that, you know, you fucked up and actually being like, yo, let me tell you what I did. Because the thing is, if we're superficial, they know when we're being authentic. Kids don't
100%.
like inauthentic people, period. Whether
Yeah.
that's their parents, whether that's their teachers, kids appreciate authenticity. And honestly, I think I can say that my kids appreciate that about me
Mhm.
because I'm not like any of their other teachers. I'm real. Like I'm honest with them, and I tell them about where I've been and what I've done. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't try to put up a front. I don't try to pretend.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, sometimes I think my ways are way too unconventional because look, I cuss at my kids. You know what I'm saying? And so because you know I'm author that's who I am. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm very intentional about showing my kids that I'm a real ass person. And the reason why, Nick, is because we tend to put people on a pedestal, people in high positions who are successful, we
Mhm.
think they're perfect. And because we think they're perfect, we think we can't be them.
Yes. Or we
I
have
need my
to
kids.
be perfect.
Yes, yes. And so I need my kids to see if I'm going to be in a high place, I need to see that I'm just as flawed as they are.
Yep.
That way they don't ever negate the possibility of them rising too.
Bam. Yeah, like I mean, I don't ever want anybody to admire a version of me that isn't real because then the admiration
Right.
isn't
Yeah, yeah.
real. Like, what's the point, right?
And I struggle with even now, like when I go places and I've had the opportunity to speak to millions of people, right? I'll be honest with you, Nick. Sometimes I'm like, these people don't love me.
Yep.
These people don't love me. They don't even know me. Because you know what I'm saying, if I pulled up in here in my jeans and my beater or something, I had all my tats and all that out, you know, would you feel the same about me?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If I was talking to them the same way you and I were talking the other day, would they still feel the same about us if they got to experience that? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's that's the only way you really know who's truly riding for you or not. You
Yeah.
know, is who's willing to accept and embrace your authenticity.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, here's one. How did writing a book about your journey change you? How you think, feel, and act? Did any of that change as a result of what you learned about yourself through this writing process?
Yes, what it taught me was that I was not healed,
Oof.
and the reason why is because I think I used work as a drug.
I still do
I
that.
Yeah, like even when I'm going through stuff, like I lose myself in work, and I mean I go in, you know what I'm saying? And because it's easier to do that than to confront what we really got going on. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? And because we get high off of what we do. That's what I say. You know, everybody's looking for some sort of high. We get high off what we do. You know, and so in writing this book, I had to sit there and I had to write and I had to edit. Look, you know that process. You know that process way more than me. You know, we had to edit and go back and try to perfect it as much as possible and find the right word that captures the true essence of the emotion that you're trying to convey. You know, and I had to deal with all of that. and it was the first time that I had to give words to my experiences,
Yeah.
especially the ones that I tried to ignore. And so it opened this window where I realized, damn, like I'm really not healed from this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did it teach me? It really taught me that my healing process has just begun. Like
Boom.
literally just now. So look, we gonna do this healing work together, yo. We out here.
We like, what other option is there, right? Like, it's like when you are a person who is interacting with younger people and they're like looking to you, how do I do this life thing? Not healing is not an option.
Yeah, yeah. And we gotta be real with them 'cause they we gotta be real with them, let them know, look, we try and figure it out too.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
try and figure it out too. We all out here just trying to figure it out. So we gotta have grace for each other.
Absolutely. Okay. This one is fun. Is from one of my moms, actually, Debbie Koenig. Your deep honesty will help so many students. Has your experience given you the vision to see students in trouble, even though they try to hide it?
Yeah, one of the things that I talk about is the fact that when I was in school and I showed all those behaviors, I wish I had somebody who was able to identify those behaviors as symptoms of a
Yes.
deep-seated pain,
Yep.
and because a lot of people don't know how to articulate that they're in pain.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't know how to, they don't have the courage to be able to share what they're dealing with. Think about how many people are sexually abused or physically abused, and they don't tell anyone,
Nope.
because they're so conflicted on the inside. And so this book is not just for those kids who are going through it, but for those who have the desire to reach them. But in order to reach them, you have to have the wherewithal to be able to identify certain proclivities,
Mhm.
of kids who are dealing with trauma. you
Yeah.
know but that's something we don't deal with, Nick. Like, what I'm saying, like we talk about in education. Look, I've been through the education training programs in college. We don't talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have conversations about that. It's all about the subject. It's all about the curriculum. And that's why I say to teachers all the time, nowadays we live in a climate and a culture where teachers love their subject more than they love their students.
Whoop.
Because when's the last time we've had a class on love, or for teachers where they've had a professional development seminar that was centered on love? You know what I'm saying? This is hard work that we're doing. So when we talk about reaching these kids and changing these kids, we got to understand the true impetus of change. Change comes through the front door of the heart and through the back door of the mind. Love changes people more than information ever will. And that's what we got to understand.
Mm. We're going to take a moment of silence after that one. Because yes,
That's real, man. It's
absolutely.
real.
Absolutely. Um, how did you find yourself and how do you continue to return to your true self?
I found myself when I found my voice. And
Ooh.
that's important because where a person has no voice, they do not exist. They don't exist. If you don't have, it's your voice that declares your presence. And when I found my voice, I discovered who I really was, and I discovered my calling to help other people do the same and find their voices. So that was how. And how do I stay true to myself? By singing my song, by telling my story, by using my voice, to make other people's lives better. That's how.
I just love you. You're just
I love you too.
just look. I think, and it's I'm excited for a lot of the things that you're doing that I'm not going to mention, because I do like you're doing some really powerful stuff. Let's talk a little bit about debate. Like, there's a question in here about the connection between debate and basketball. Like, what did basketball teach you about debate, and do the two have similarities? So answer that, and then I want to talk a little bit about debate because I was a debater.
Yeah, yeah. And then, yo, let me tell you, first of all, when I was reading Dear Martin, yo, I was totally geeking all the whole the debate references, yo. But and I was like, wait, was Nick a debater?
I was.
Because like people who weren't debaters don't just like write about debate. You know what I'm saying? So I was
Right.
like, "What nigga debate? How did she not tell me that she was a debater?" Yo. But all right, we'll talk about that later. So yeah, I mean the connections between basketball and debate is the same. There's a correlation between debate and basketball and life,
Mhm.
particularly life in America. You know, in a capitalistic society where we have to play this game of chess, you know, and when we're talking about being our better selves and this journey of finding power and using that power to make other people's lives better, because if the right person doesn't have power, the wrong person will. We got to understand that, you know. And so for me, the debate taught me you know, about owning my ideas, about thinking critically, about wielding my words as a weapon to build and to fight against systems of injustice. You
Mhm.
know, that's what it was all about for me, and that's why I tell, you know, teachers that a debate centered curriculum is so powerful, because there's nothing that you will own more than your own perspective.
Correct.
That's why kids love science and math so much, which tends to be more hands-on. But whether you are creating a product or whether you are creating an idea, it is something that you can behold as your own, something that you can love, something that you can cherish, you know. And so when I got to the point where I was able to formulate my own thoughts, you know, Carter G. Woodson said, the mere imparting of information is not education. The effort must result in one's ability to think and do for himself. When I learned how to think and when I learned how to do, that's when I felt like I really started to exist. That's
Mm.
when I felt like I really started to matter, you know. And when I discovered that power, man, it was a tool, and I was like, yo, I got to get this. Yo, why people in my community don't know about this? Yo, you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, yo, I got to take this back to the hood, yo. You know, it
Yes.
was that transformative, yo. And I was like, yo, I gotta go teach. Like, I gotta find some black kids, and I gotta teach them about this, because they probably don't know that this exists.
Right.
They don't know. And so when I was in college, you know, I quit the debate team because I wanted to start teaching debate to the kids in my community.
Yeah.
You know, and they started showing up. At first it was 5, then it was 10. Kids from the park, kids from the playground, from the basketball court were all coming and learning about debate. Why? Because they were going through the same intellectual metamorphosis that I was. All
Yeah.
of that was spawned by debate. All of that was spawned by me finding my voice. You know, we got to help young people find their voices. We got to.
Whew. Love it. Yeah. So I started debating in 7th grade. And
What?
this is like old school debate though. Like the rapid fire thing.
Yeah,
That
yeah, the speed read. Yeah, no, that's trash. And
what?
they only do
Like
that. They only do that in policy. They only do that in policy debates.
yes, I've watched it and I'm like, my head just like spins. But there
Yeah,
is
it's so
something,
unattractive.
yeah, but you're right. The most beautiful thing about debate when it comes to teaching kids how to find their voice is you're teaching them also how to support what they have found. So,
Come on,
well, where's your evidence? Where's your backup? How are
come
you going to
on.
support this argument that you're making? How are you going to
Yeah,
convince me that what you're saying is valid? Right?
yeah.
Being able to speak for yourself, I think, is one of the most beautiful things that kids can take from debate. So like please keep that energy with
Oh
debating.
yeah,
Right? Keep that
oh
energy.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Everyone, it doesn't matter if you in math, science, so every subject should be centered around debate and discourse.
Yes.
Because the thing is that the problem is that in so many classrooms around the world, the teacher does 90% of the talking. Why? Like why? You're not fostering. This should be a journey. The teacher should be a tour guide, someone who takes you on this journey with beautiful tangents, with
Hmm.
where curiosity, you know, just where you just drift away with curiosity and find yourself in this place that's so beautiful, and you're like, how do we get here? You
Yeah.
know, and this destination that we find, like there's nothing I live for more than those aha moments. You know, those moments of self-discovery, man, they're so powerful.
Yeah.
And so the true teacher is the one who knows how to usher in that aha moment experience. Debate does that.
Bars.
Yeah,
Inquiry, discourse, and debate.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
You're everything. Like
Oh
where
man,
is
you
Lot?
are too, man.
Is there
You are.
anything that I
I could do
didn't
this with you
ask?
all day.
Oh, I think
Um,
that's probably gonna happen. Like we just gonna have to kick it and just
For
talk
real,
shit
man.
and
Nah,
just
the
yes.
time blew by so fast, man. I appreciate you, man. I mean, you have no idea how much you mean to me, as a budding author, someone who's new on the scene, to be embraced by someone of your stature, someone who's as celebrated as you, as the Nick Stone. I'm talking to the Nick Stone. I got Nick Stone on the back of my book. It's there. It ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like that means the world to me, man. I mean, and I was telling you this the other day, people like you, people like Dr. Cornell West, who have really just embraced me and loved on me. I appreciate you more than you ever know, sister. I'm serious.
And I appreciate you just for what you're doing out in the world. Like I
So
sit in my house making stuff up all day, which is great. Don't get me wrong. It's wonderful. It's based on
hell
stuff
yeah.
actually happening.
See,
But
I wish I could do that. I wish I could be a fiction writer. Like I
see
think
what the
fiction
trick
writers are
is.
the most brilliant people in the world. Like you create whole new worlds,
See,
and
we had this discussion, and I'm telling you, nonfiction is harder to me because I'm like, wait, you mean
man, get
I
out of
can't
here.
lie? Like I gotta just tell the truth the whole
Man.
time. I can't embellish. Then it's not nonfiction anymore. Like, ugh.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, man, I'm envious of you. So give me a little bit of that energy so I can do the same maybe one day.
There you go.
I appreciate it. I receive it.
Yeah,
I receive that. I receive it. I appreciate you, man.
I am so sad to be the one to cut off this conversation. Thank you so much to both of you for your your brains and your candor. And I've just been frantically writing down notes on my phone of what these wonderful lines even says. Thank you. This is really, really wonderful conversation. Folks, thanks so much for joining us. I just reposted a link in the chat to purchase copies of Miseducated. Please go buy this remarkable book. And thanks so much to both of you. Yeah, there it is. See, Nick mentioned earlier, he even matched his wardrobe for you today.
See?
Please, he made an effort. Please make an effort. Anyway, thank you so much for supporting your independent bookstores. Thanks so much again to both of you. This was a really, really wonderful conversation. Stay well, stay safe, keep reading. Have a lovely night. Thank you.
Yes, everybody have a good night. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.